Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's Thursday, the 5th of October, 2023. My name is Carey Holzman, and I've been a working computer technician in the industry for over 30 years. And today, we've got a continuation of a diagnostic and repair video of a server class system. You don't see too many of those here on the channel. It is no longer my bread and butter. It was never my bread and butter. Mostly workstations and home computers and things of that nature have been, and laptops for a primary source of work for me in my career choice. So today, if you missed part one, this is a machine from, was used over at the YouTube channel called ServeTheHome. And I think Patrick, the host of ServeTheHome YouTube channel, built this himself, if I'm not mistaken. And where we left off is I think we have a bad motherboard. This was damaged badly in shipping. And Patrick from ServeTheHome moved to my home state. Well, my home state's Michigan, but my current home state is Arizona, and he's actually not too far down the street from me. And when he posted on Twitter a picture of the damaged computer, I reached out and said, I'd love to work on that, showcase it on the channel. And so a little bit of discovery with some equipment, RDIMMs and things I've never used before, and a server class motherboard, which, you know, we touch on with ThreadRipper builds. This is a ThreadRipper build. I think it's got 0.5 terabyte of RAM in it. Ridiculous. But I pulled one of the RAM modules out, which I have sitting here. And I opened up all of the heat sinks for the M.2 slots to see how many were populated. Only one was populated with a Samsung 980 Pro that was not secured properly. However, wasn't hurting anything and certainly not the source of our problem. Now, that being said, I went on Amazon in the last video. I had Camera Girl go on Amazon and order the motherboard, which was $1,049. And checked around other places, Newegg, B&H Photo. B&H Photo, it's a special order item. And since we ordered it, the price then went to $1,046. I think right now it's $1,039. It's dropped $11, $10 since we ordered it just a couple days ago. The motherboard in question is, well, I'll just pull up the Amazon website and show you. Once I figure out which button to press. There it is. The ASUS Pro WRX80E-SAGE SE Wi-Fi 2. This may not be the 2. This may be the original. It's an AMD WRX80 Ryzen ThreadRipper Pro Extended-ATX workstation board, although it's really a server board. And pricey. Pretty pricey. I just can't believe the price dropped $11 or so just since we ordered it. Of course, that's a very small drop. What does it say? 6% since, 6% off its list price. In any event, it arrived today, and so that's what we've been waiting on to continue the build, because we're going to take this motherboard out and remove the RAM, CPU, storage. Already got the storage out. Set it up on the new board. Put it back in the case. And let me see here. Losing my spot. I want to give a shout out to Tony. Tony sent a couple of old graphics cards he didn't need anymore. And he said, hey, would you have any use for these? A GeForce GTX 970 and a GeForce GTX 750. He even kept all the boxes for them. And I actually sent them a while back. I've only just now had an opportunity to get over to Studio A and pick them up. These are going to be great for diagnostics. Might even use one during today's setup of the new board. I'm going to set them over here for right now. And I just realized I have my camera tilted up a little bit too high, so I'm going to step over here briefly. Whoops. Set that anywhere. Let's bring that down just a little bit. Right about there should be good. My lens cap that dropped. Okay. So thank you to Tony for sending the graphics cards. And yeah, you'll be seeing those in use in future diagnostics. And let's see, close this. Let me give a shout out and a thank you to our good friend Kelly Stewart, who sent an Amazon gift card prior to the show. Thank you, of course, to all of your support and generosity. Also to Paul O'Brien, who's contributed €2 in Super Chat and says hello. And the man, Michael Dane, joins us in chat with a $10 Super Chat. He goes, here's money for your Coke/Gatorade fund. Done and done. Thank you, Michael. Rick Lakes joins us from Minnesota with a $5 Super Chat. Says, hello, Carey. Hello, Rick. Thank you for your Super Chat. And Peter with a €1 contribution. Peter joins us from the Netherlands. Is that right? We have a worldwide audience. Shamim Keshveris in the chat says it's midnight here in Sweden. Martin Hogg joining us from Scotland says hello in the chat room. Raj D says hello, Carey, Camera Girl, and all in chat. Welcome in. There's Sherry McFarlane, Andy Kane, Luke Greenia, and Mark Gaines. Bull142 and Heat Tracker 34 saying hello. Dom Long says hello. David Graham saying hello. Nick Caffrey. Davey also saying hello. Mark Baggett, Matthew Burden, Paul Garrett, Bikeman I7, Eddie Casanova, and Lawn Dog. Mortant 1210 joining us. All saying hello. Welcome into the chat room, everybody. Gil Garcia. And Barry Klein says hello. As does George Armstrong joining us from the UK. Greg M says the motherboard you ordered is not the version 2 model, is it? They improved that motherboard wattage that motherboard can supply. Yes, it is. I don't believe the version 1 is available anymore, except maybe used somewhere. So, of course, I want the latest and greatest. It's essentially the same board, is my understanding, with some minor improvements, which is why it didn't get a total name change, just a version 2 or Roman numeral 2 on it. Andy Kane with €2 says, glad to contribute. Every little bit helps. Right on. Thank you, Andy. And hello to Jerry Watson from Oregon, and John Williams saying hello, as does Ron Young and Steve Chappelle. All right. So I've taken out one RAM module because I wanted to see what was in there. I opened up all the heat sinks for the 3 M.2 slots because I assumed wrongly that they were all populated, but only one of them was populated. And now, because our new board has come in, and that looks like, show you here, got one right over here. Well, I've got the, make it sound like I have several. This is the heaviest motherboard I think I've ever worked with. I think they're charging by the pound. Ugh. That is a replacement board for us. It's heavy. Just put it back over here. And I've got all of our parts we removed, or broken parts that have fallen off, all stacked over here. I might end up changing the case out as well. Not today, but I'm wondering if the Be Quiet Shadow Base 800DX might actually be a better fit for this. So that's in the back of my mind. I have to get it working first. So I might be putting the cart before the horse, even considering that at this point. I'm not a fan of this case personally, but then again, I don't also build servers. So at least not on a regular basis, very rarely. So I'm not on board with whatever the latest options are in server cases. However, this one's pretty well damaged, so I think it's going to need replacement. I also ordered a different power supply here. I've got a GameMax 1300 watt. This is RGB, but it also has the new power adapter the video cards use built right into the back of the power supply. I think it even has an ARGB plug, so you can have the RGB tie-in and synchronize with your motherboard RGB, which I didn't buy it for that reason, and I don't really care, but it's there. And yeah, that's got the PCIe 5.0. All right, so let me bring that back over here. Should get us all up to speed. Gregory Howard with a $20 super chat. Hey, Gregory, thank you so much for your continued support, my friend. And now we get the fun part. My favorite part is the teardown. I am really good at taking things apart. It's the putting them back together part that can be a challenge for a lot of people. But taking it apart, super easy, barely an inconvenience. So I'm going to start by laying the board. Well, first of all, I'll show you what I'm going to be looking at. I need to remove all the cables plugged into the board, and then I'm also going to remove the water pump from the top of the CPU, remove the screws securing the motherboard, and then pull the motherboard out. When the motherboard's out, then I'll pull the CPU out and take the RAM out at that point. But I'll leave it in there for right now just to keep my life easier. The main thing right now is to just remove like all of our front port umbilicals, all of our power cables. And let's see, we got a motherboard power cable here. We have another power cable here. Lots and lots of power cables. So it looks like we've got two CPU power cables, or if you can see my fingers back here, but one on each side of the main motherboard power. Then for some reason, which I don't quite understand, we've got some PCIe power cables plugged into the motherboard as well, providing an additional voltage for something. Let's see. I'm going to have to move some things on this bench to clear enough room so I can lay this case flat. Take it this way. That is the wrong way. All right, first things first, this liquid pump has to come off. Oh, and I still have a few more connectors down here that need to come off as well. Pull all of the rest of the front port umbilicals, which is front port audio, front port USB. As I mentioned, the PCIe power connectors down here on the bottom of the board need to come off. This one. Let's go. So one of my main incentives in not hesitating to order the board is because we ordered it from Amazon. And so if there's much more broken than meets the eye here, then we can always send the board back for a full refund at no cost to return. My goal here is to get this working. I don't want to have to return the board, but it's nice to have peace of mind that we're not throwing good money after bad on something that, you know, after a certain point of replacement, the cost of repair may exceed the cost of, or come close to the cost of just building a new machine. So if it's just a motherboard, though, totally worth it. This motherboard combined with the processor, the RAM, storage, and the cooler is probably, well, the way it was spec'd out originally, $15,000 to $20,000, I would guess. So Patrick stopped by. He wanted to collect his storage drives. Those were the 2 cards. They each contain 4 M.2 drives, the Hyper M.2 cards that ASUS makes. And we don't need those, of course. And then the 2 add-on network cards, I don't need those either. Everything I need, for me personally, is on the board. So the status of the GPU is still unknown. I think it's bad, but I'm not 100% certain. Just realized we have another CPU power connector. 3 of them up there on the top right, I just realized. And we're going to unplug the water block from power. And, oh, I got to unplug the power switch. I think we're completely disconnected now. We'll find out. I'm going to go ahead and remove the water block. That'll be first. Now, when you're disassembling computers, it's fine to use an electric screwdriver or drill to remove screws. But I do recommend and exercise caution when putting the system back together, unless you are very, very comfortable and familiar with your electric driver. You should probably tighten all screws by hand just to ensure you don't cross thread, also to ensure you don't over tighten anything. But that you don't have these issues with unscrewing, so you feel free to use an electric driver or even a drill for disassembly. Jerry Watson with a $10 super chat said, I always enjoy your show, sharing helpful information. Right on. Well, thank you, Jerry. Thank you for supporting the channel. Gregory Howard's posting a link with an $80 promo code to just a CPU, I guess. Good to know. Good to know. All right, let's turn the torque up here because these screws holding down the water block, or these thumb screws, they're on there pretty tightly. There's one. When we put a CPU cooler on, we always want to tighten the bolts or the thumb screws down in opposite corners. But when we're taking it apart, it doesn't matter. It's just so you know, you can go around clockwise or randomly. All of the delicacy or the concern is when it's assembled. So let's get this block off of here. Yikes. Well, I say Patrick did a good job with the thermal compound. Looks like just the right amount, not too much, not too little. I don't have any slack on the cable though. So let me grab a paper towel and just wipe up that thermal compound because it gets messy. And because this is a ThreadRipper chip, which is about twice the size of a regular desktop chip, it uses twice as much thermal compound. So it can be twice as messy. And that thermal material is pretty dry. So I don't know how long it's been on there. I didn't think the system was that old, but surprised at how dry it is. All right, that's the bulk of it anyway, so that'll reduce the amount of mess. Ben Laird with a 2-pound contribution. Ben joins us from Scotland. Thank you, Ben. Patrick Grusaw says hello from Syracuse, New York. Probably too late for him to watch. He might be in bed already, but our good friend Peter Laycock, we'll say a shout out hello to him out there in Scotland for when he sees this video later, I bet. I hope. And of course, thanks again over to Patrick at ServeTheHome for giving us this fun project to work on. Okay, so with everything disconnected, now I can just take out the screws that are holding the motherboard down. Let's see how many we have here. One. A two. So it looks like we got 4 screws holding the board along the bottom. And then as we go to the middle, we've got 1, a center post, which helps align the board and does not take a mounting screw. So it looks like just 2 across the middle. And across the top, can't see. 1 by the RAM. One on the top right corner. I notice there's 1 missing from the top left corner, my top left. Can't see anything else. I think I've got all of the screws removed. Oh. Apparently there's a circuit board at the top of this water pump that has also broken free. Interesting. Deal with that later. This is a very heavy motherboard, so gotta use both hands to take this out. I need that water block out of my way. I'm still holding us in here. There we go. Think. Okay. So I've got the board out. And carry this over here so you guys can see. Here's our old damaged board. And then there's the 1 RAM module I took out. There's our damaged capacitors there. The other side even has a back plate on it, which is a nice touch. And I am going to set this right over here for now. And let's put this back up on its feet. This is also a good time to look for any other loose parts that might be shaking around in here. Lots and lots and lots of cables. There's our water block there. There's the circuit board. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a circuit board here. And we'll get that resolved a little later. Then we had our power cable for our fan. It's right here. That was caught in between the I/O shield. And we'll make sure that we will be very aware of that when we put the board back in. This case just got a lot lighter. I'm just going to set it right over here. Okay. That's a lot easier to work on now. Go ahead and take all these RAM modules out. Each one of these RAM modules represents 64 gigs of RAM, and we have 8 of them. Which is what, 512 gigs of RAM? And then, of course, these standoffs have to come off. We'll need to put these back on to the new board to hold the water block on. And I think I'll go ahead and just grab a Q-tip and some rubbing alcohol and clean the top of the CPU off before I take it out. And I might clean it again after I put it in. We'll see. See what it looks like. You almost need cotton balls. Q-tips are almost too small. Messy, huh? Okay, that's good enough for right now. My main concern is the thermal material gets all over your finger, everything you touch, clothes, it's messy. So I like to get it cleaned before I handle it. And then I might clean it again before I reapply new thermal material because I've handled it. Now, to remove the ThreadRipper from its socket, AMD has a tightening sequence. And when you buy a ThreadRipper chip, they include a little ratcheting tool that looks like this right here. And this ratcheting tool is set to click at a certain amount of torque, which I guess is written there. They want you to tighten the screws in a certain sequence, also to loosen the screws in a certain sequence. And they normally have little numbers next to the yeah, so there's little numbers up here. This one's number 1, this one's number 2, this one's number 3. So to tighten it, you tighten it down 1, 2, 3, and to open it, you 3, 2, 1. Let's try this. You want to grab the close-up camera? Well, I could use the overhead if you don't want to. I'm not mean. I'm offering you a ticket out. But you got to be careful because I got a stack of computer parts here just for you to trip over. That to you.
Get out of my way.
Just watch your step there.
Get out of my way. Ow.
Yeah, there's a lot of, yeah. There's a lot of stuff on the floor.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to bring on camera, close-up camera. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, come on over. You did it. All right. All right, indeed. Let's see. So if you look closely, you'll see a number 3 right here. There's a number 2 right there. There's a number 1 with an arrow right there. You might need to tilt the camera one way or the other to go the other way. And then it says close 1, 2, 3. And then it says open 3, 2, 1. It's written right onto the socket. We ready? So this is our little tool, which, you know, you don't really need this tool for removing. I could just get a bit that fits on my electric driver. But for the amount of money everything's worth here, I think I'll turn it by hand. Okay, and you hear it click, and that tells us it's all the way out. When the screws don't come out. And 1 is right here. Now, if you've not seen me build with the ThreadRipper before, I've only done it twice before, then this whole process is going to be new to you because it's a slightly different CPU installation process and it's a slightly different CPU. In fact, let me turn it around facing you guys. And you'll see the lid opens and we do have some thermal material. Mist. Grab a Q-tip real quick. Got some right here on the edge. All right, so just once again, that stuff just gets all over everything and I just want to wipe it off before it wipes off on me. Now we have these tabs here. See these blue tabs? And with these, you just lift up. See the socket below, very similar to an AM5 or a modern Intel socket, just about 4 times bigger. And you'll see there's an orange frame around the CPU. That is a part of the CPU. It does not come off.
Touches the.
You'll also notice it has the little arrow indicating where pin 1 is, and then that same arrow will be located probably on this. Yeah, right there. See the arrow? It matches that arrow. Anyway, so you're going to take this and it's going to slide out, sort of like sliding a photo out of a photo frame. It's like in a little track. See that? Now this is a ThreadRipper Pro 3995WX. And while it's possible to remove that orange frame, you're not intended to. Now, we want to certainly keep this socket protected. And tightening this down in the right order is not as important right now. But I don't want it springing up on us. Now, just so you're aware, this will click when it hits the torque setting. Which is not important when we don't have a CPU in there. but just wanted to demonstrate it to you if you've not seen that before. And that is the order you're supposed to do it in. 1, 2, and then 3. We'll take the CPU cover from the new motherboard later and protect this from any damage. And as you can see, we have a lot of power connectors on this board. CPU power here, CPU power here, CPU power here, motherboard power here. And then for some reason, again, I don't quite understand why we've got GPU power going in here. Very strange. And I just realized, well, that right there could be a problem. That's focusing. But we have 2 pins that are touching, and if those pins are touching, that could keep the board from booting. It's quite possible this board is still functional once we identify any possible causes of shorts. But yeah, that right there could have been the reason why we weren't booting. But also, you know, we do have that busted off capacitor there, and this one's pretty well dented in here. And then one of these little pieces, 2 of these had come off. We put one back on, and then the other one that goes here is sitting right here. And then this was the, what did they call this? The ASUS Q connector, I think. I got pretty well realigned. UPS realignment. And then the Samsung 980 Pro 2 terabyte drive was here. There's a 2 terabyte, there's an M.2 rather, underneath this heatsink. There's an M.2 underneath this heatsink. And in this M.2, which is where the drive was placed, you'll see these little I don't know what you'd call these, where you can screw in a standoff. And you're not really intended to put the M.2 drive in. Just to show you how it was. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. You see there's supposed to be a little standoff. You look right at the top. Stretch your arm out more. Stretch it out. And then point straight down. So right here, there's supposed to be a standoff and then a screw. And then the heatsink goes on top of that. Without that there, likely it was okay because this is screwed down and the thermal material kind of grabs it like the stickiness. But if I would have built it, I would have made sure to have used the little standoff and screw because, you know, I'm anally retentive that way. Just put this back on. You'll see we've got a power and reset button there on the board. And the only reason I'm putting this back on is to make sure I'm not going to mix up any parts from one motherboard or the other. I try and keep everything together. It's my system of knowing where things are. Organized piles. All right. This may deserve more exploration at a later date, but we're done with it for today. I want to take another close-up there, just very slowly panning around the board. Oystein says, where is the protection cap for the CPU? Well, I picked up the system from Patrick, and so I don't have the motherboard box or spare parts or anything. We didn't know we were going to be replacing the board. So we're going to take the cap off of the CPU protection We're going to take that off the new board and we'll place it on the old board. So it's not like it hurts to expose this to air. It's just that it'd be very easy to accidentally touch it, and just touching it could cause those little delicate pins to bend and possibly break. And then for sure the motherboard's toast after that. So it's just there for protection, and we will add that here in a moment. But first, let me move this aside. Find a place to put this. I am quickly running out of room here. I think I know where to put it. It's over here. Yeah. Over here. Now I can grab the motherboard box for our new replacement board right here. You'll tape. It's taped shut. Oh, I see. It opens up like a lid. There is tape right there. I knew I was hearing tape. Oh, this thing has Wi-Fi 6E on it. Okay, so, yeah. Got some plastic film that needs to come off. And then there's our cover that when we take it off, we'll put that back onto the old board. And then the rest of the items in this box include lots of SATA cables, Wi-Fi antenna. These are the aforementioned screws for the M.2 and the standoff. Oh, and this is another reason why this board is so much money. It comes with the ASUS HyperX card where you could put 4 M.2 drives in this. I guess Patrick had 2 of those. The board only comes with 1. All right, let me go set this aside. So the first thing we can do is put our new CPU in. Or put our CPU, not our new CPU. You know, I'm just curious how much this CPU sells for.
I don't know.
I don't want to know.
No.
What did we say this was? A $39.95.
$39.95. It's $6,000.
See, let me look it up on Amazon right now. Amazon. ThreadRipper, $39.95. ThreadRipper Pro $39.95. Is that right? AMD Threadripper Pro $39.95 WX 16 core. This is not a 16 core. Oh, that's a $39.55. $39.95. Oh, holy cow.
Told you.
$56.99. That's 12% off the suggested retail price. 4.5 gigahertz, 64 cores, 128 threads. Is that right? It's insanity. It's really fast, but you can't afford it, this review says. It will play Wii Sports at 15 frames per second. Okay, clearly what the engineers intended for it to do. It's insane. This is a workstation, server processor. All right, let me go back over to close-up camera. Okay. These pieces here. It's got us caught. There it is. Okay, so that's the socket cover we need right there. Carefully want to take that out. And then this piece here is just a dummy piece. Set that there. We'll take our $5,700 CPU, slide it into its track, make sure it seats all the way down, and then with these blue tabs, just going to push down. You should hear it and feel it click into place. Then we can lower the top piece down, and it's important, as I mentioned before, we're going to tighten 1, 2, and 3. You will tighten each one using the included tool. Seated all the way. Put some downward pressure on it. Get it started. One. A little tricky to get those started. There's 2. That's 3. Okay. Little standoffs for the water pump can go back on. They just screw right into the CPU socket frame. Good to know that one side is a fatter screw than the other, so you don't have to worry about putting them in upside down. Even though to the naked eye they might look to be about the same, one end is super skinny and will just fall down into the hole. And that's how you know you've got it backwards. Now they're not intended to be torqued down or anything, but let me see. Just curious. These are 5mm. These are bigger. I'm going to just tighten them a little bit more, even though you're not really supposed to. But I would feel more comfortable that these were more than just finger tight, given I can't get a really good grip on them to make them that tight with my. See, that one's turning quite a bit more. Okay, as long as I come to a dead stop, I'm good. And then, of course, all of our RAM can go back in. And since all the RAM is the same, you don't necessarily have to worry about putting it in any specific order. Only one side is going to click. Align it into the track very gently. And then with thumbs, you'll use some force down. I'm gonna put this one in backwards. This is the way it goes. It will not let you put them in backwards. Keep wanting to put them in backwards. And then typically the other side goes in the opposite way. So they're essentially, the fronts are facing each other. I'm calling the part with the sticker the front. And in case you want to see what that RAM is close up, all right. The board is now ready to go back into the case. I want to go ahead and put, actually, I'm not going to put these back on, but I'm going to put them over with the board. Just in case we have other problems, then we might need to send this board back to Amazon if it doesn't resolve our issue. And if so, I don't want to have to take them back out. So we'll make sure that we're done with them before we put them back on the old board, just to save a little effort. And I'm done with my little Ryzen driver, so I'll put that back. And see how I want to do this. This over here. All right, so I think we can go back to camera one at this point. So watch your step there. There we go, you're clear. Thank you for that, camera girl. And that off. That off. Okay. What are they saying in the chat room? Oh, Nick Poverman mentions we should put the NVMe drive back in. It's a good point. And David Graham mentions that as well. Yeah, you know what? It would be a lot easier for us to put that in right now. Thank you for reminding me. And I'm going to put it in the same slot it was in, which is the slot right here. And then I need the little standoff and screw to secure the M.2 drive. So we'll go back to the motherboard box here. And let's see. Oh, perfect. There's a bunch of little plastic bags, and several of them have the standoff and screw together. I hate it when they separate out standoff in one bag and the screw in another bag. Such a waste. So that's what we're going to use. Where's my skizzers? Probably right in front of my face. I think Mitch has one more day in Vietnam, and then he'll be heading up, jumping on a plane and heading back to the States tomorrow, I think, at some point. Very tight fit to get in there. Now that should be 5mm, standard motherboard standoff size. Oh, maybe not. Smaller than that, I guess. It's okay, there it is. All right, that's on. M.2 will go in. Right there. Secure that down. Perfect. Don't over tighten those. We'll remove the thermal tape at the bottom of the heatsink. Just this protective tape that keeps it clear of any dirt and debris. Whoops. No, I'm putting this in the wrong way. Silly me. It's this way. The screws at each end are different, so you can't really get it wrong. There we go. Yeah, thanks for that reminder, guys. Appreciate that. Oakley dokley. So we are ready to be put back into the case. I'm going to set this aside, since I have very limited workbench space here. And I also want to double check, while this case is here on the floor, if I hear anything rattling around in here, I want to take it out now. Like, I don't know where that capacitor went, for example, that came off the board. I realized this was a door. Wasn't even paying attention to that yesterday. This would be a good time for me to straighten out all this cabling. Or not. Curious about the circuit board being loose. Guessing that it just snaps back into place. Assuming there's been no damage to it. It's an ASUS cooler. It says Republic of Gamers on it. That's a bit worrisome. It's just magnets. Tool here and see if I can move that magnet around a little bit. Yeah, that's a really strong magnet. So I'm not quite sure what that's for. But there's two of them and they're right below the lid of the water block there. I went to grab it with these needle nose and it just clicked, snapped right onto them. Whoops. Wow. It's interesting. Good news is I just have to put the needle nose in there and it just grabs right onto it. So I'm guessing I need to just put this in the... Oh, and I got a bunch of thermal compound. It's all sticky all over my finger here. Remember I said that stuff gets everywhere. And if you don't clean it all off, even the tiniest bit, it smears and it'll get, like there, it got on the side of my pinky and it got on the side of the finger next to it. I have no idea where it came from. Probably the edge of the water block, if I'm guessing. And then it'll get onto the case and onto everything I touch. Even that little tiny amount can get very messy. Something should be holding this motherboard, this little tiny circuit board in. But nothing is, which suggests to me that maybe some piece broke on this, or not doing something correctly. Starting to wonder if those magnets were glued onto the circuit board and that was what was holding the circuit board up. I don't think that's going to affect anything for us, but interesting. All very interesting. And let's see what's going on in the chat room. BCS Computer says, hey, Carey, good to see another build. Well, this is not a build, this is a repair, but we will have a brand new build tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Douglas Burchell renews his support for another month. Says, I hope your anxiety is okay, Carey. Thanks for the show. What anxiety? CPU is only 1427.91. I think you're looking at the wrong CPU. $3995. If you want to make sure you're looking at a 3995, not a 3945 or a 3955. 3995. ThreadRipper. Definitely want to make sure that our rear case fan power cable will not get trapped a second time. Now, take the motherboard out of that little box that was in, and we have some plastic sitting back here. And we've got another plastic piece here on the IO shield. That's pretty common. And then I'm going to lay this flat onto the motherboard tray. I'm going to worry about aligning that a little bit later. Let's get this stuff out of my way so I don't slip on it. Otherwise, we'll have a completely different video. Okay, so I can definitely see how that fan power cable would easily get pinched there. There's barely any clearance between the bottom of the fan and the top of the IO shield cover. And we have a ton of cables here that are getting up underneath the board that are preventing it from seating. We really want to make sure we're taking our time on this and ensuring that we're not trapping any of the cables underneath the board. I don't care where the cables are, as long as they're not underneath the board, we're good. Bases. It's pretty well aligned to me. Bring this torque back down. Set it to 3. And I'm still getting thermal compound on myself. Got to be on the edge of that water block. So I still have the 2 top ones to do here, but I just want to make sure. I haven't trapped anything underneath this board because it feels like something's under it, but it just may be that back plate that I'm feeling. Oh, this is gaining some weight. Ugh. Let's clear up here. Grab a colder Gatorade. Am I the only one sweating? Ooh. Making me work for this one. Everything's heavy. Everything is, no wonder it's from Texas. Say everything's bigger in Texas. We have a mess of cables here. Turn this around briefly so I can see it. There was one motherboard mounting screw missing from the top left. And I'll have to look through some screws I've got and see if I got one that'll fit there. It doesn't absolutely have to have it, just like it doesn't absolutely have to have the M.2 screws securing it. It's just I like everything just right. And let me see how the IO shield looks back here. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we can put the water block back on. This power cable back on here. And it's a VGA power cable. VGA. This one says CPU. This one says CPU. Put these both back. One there. Here. There should be one more. Somewhere in this pile, there's a VGA, SATA, Molex. Where did it go? Using a VGA power. Could have been. It's the only other one I see here. Say. I want to see if it plugs in, and then I'm going to verify with the manual. That doesn't, yeah. Huh. Weird. That is very weird. Ah. I would guess the two CPU power cables probably go on each side of the motherboard power connector, and the one that's up here is probably the one. But I don't know. This is a bizarre motherboard. At least bizarre in my world. And then these two VGA connectors that go onto the bottom of the board here. PCIe power connectors now. They say VGA on them, so that's why. Wow. Okay, there's one. Let's see, this one wants to go to the left. Of course it does. I wasn't really planning to put these on just now, but since they were here, why not just get it out of the way? Okay, so motherboard at least has all the power connections. And I can plug in the, what is this? This looks like a front port USB 2. Let's go. That went right here. Yes. Power switch will go here. Got a fan header here. Did this fan header go? Why is this here? I think down here. Okay. And that circuit board just came off again. Lovely. Lovely. Okay. All right, what are you guys saying in the chat here? Ron says the case looks like it's twisted. Yeah, so if we get this machine up and running, I intend to switch the case, but I'm not going to do that if this is just too far gone. So the case is not my concern right now. But perhaps at some point, if we get everything running, I will switch the case out. But there's no sense worrying about the case on a system that won't turn on. This is our USB 3 our Type-C header here. There. Okay, so, oh, and our USB 3, go here. Might be a bit optimistic plugging all the front port umbilicals, but I just figure anything that keeps us from, whoa, wait a minute, why do I have another VGA? I'm missing another one somewhere? Let's see, power LED, I guess I can put that on. Reset switch. Switch. I mean, in theory, that's where those should go. All right, and let's bring this down. Okay. And I guess I'm going to need a bunch of thermal material here. So, get a couple of those out. Of course, Dr. Carey wouldn't be Dr. Carey without the inspection glove. This one's clean. Oh, wow. I had a lot left in that one. No, I mean, I'm just spreading thermal compound around a gigantic processor. I'm going to make happy little trees. This takes a lot of thermal material. Cover this chip. The amount I just put on there just barely covers it. I feel like we could go a little bit more. Maybe not. So I can just smash it down. Okay. I guess I didn't even need the second tube. I think it's going to be fine. Just that. Then this can only go on one way because on the ThreadRipper, two of the bolts on one side are closer together and the other side they're further apart. So there's only one possible orientation that the water block or the heatsink can go on. I might end up taking this block back off if everything works and fixing why that circuit board. I think that magnet needs to be hot melt glued back down onto the circuit board, but I think it's just an aesthetic, so we should be okay. And then our power cable went somewhere. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start these thumb screws. All right, I'll let that do the bulk of the work for me. Then I will grab, what do I want to grab? Okay, and somewhere we have a CPU or water pump header that I can't see. So I guess I'm going to have to bring the base back up. Okay. Oh yeah, there's two headers up here. For which one is for which? I'm going to have to pull the motherboard manual out and just verify I've got the power connectors in correctly. I'll make a guess and then I'll check the manual and see if my guess is right or not. Okay. I'm still finding thermal compound on my hand. All right, let's see. Manual. What does it tell us about the headers and power? Tells me nothing. Okay, I plugged the CPU fan, or the water block in this case, into the proper connector. And A, B, C, and D are all, aha. PCIe power 1, PCIe power 2, PCIe 8-pin, ATX 12 volt is B, and ATX 12 volt. Okay, so A and B. Interesting. A and B, they want the ATX 12 volt. So those are the power connectors that say CPU. And A and B are the two topmost 8-pin power connectors. And then below the big 24-pin ATX power cable, they want a PCIe or a GPU power connector there, which is, I think, how I did it. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. CPU here, CPU there. I think we're ready to plug it in and turn it on. I just need a graphics card. So let me go back here. Exciting times. Let me look for a cheapy graphics card here. We can plug that in anywhere, I suppose. I think this has to be built in a little bit. Open up all those retention levers. It's got to go the other way. Tricky. Okay. Okay. And then it looked like there's a SATA power cable here that goes to something. Where's this going? Oh. That's not it. What's this? Oh, that's control. There's a fan controller up here. I see. I see. All right, so maybe they had this plugged in. Now, we don't even know for sure that the power supply isn't damaged, so I guess we're about to find out. I'm not worried about the front fans. Switch is in the off position. Power. I need HDMI cable. You're not going to give it an internet connection or network connection yet. So we just need to make sure this thing will even boot. Keyboard and a mouse. Pretty much anywhere back here will be fine. Yeah, the case is definitely tweaked. That's a fan, that's a fan, don't care, don't care. It's fine. That's fine. Okay, I think we're ready for a smoke test. Let's see. HDMI input. Take camera 1, put it in a corner. So then power supply on. And power button. Hey, I hear fans. I think that's supposed to light up or something here. We have a code there. It says C5. Our cooler fans are not running. I think the cooler doesn't have power. So I'm going to shut this off before we go any further, because these chips can get hot fast. And let me just take a quick look here. Did I inadvertently unplug them? Okay, these two. These are the 3 going to the radiator. Wherever this cable is going. So the fans are being controlled by the block, but it doesn't look like it's acting like it's getting any power. which has me concerned. So I'm wondering if that power connector is not plugged all the way in the back of the power supply. Let me try a different power cable since that's just a little easier for me to get to. Still no fans. Yeah, I feel the pump running. Not real comfortable with this. Shut that back down. Somewhere, somehow, these fans are not getting power. Hmm. One more try. So the rear fan is running. And I do feel the vibration of the pump. There's definitely fluid flowing through these hoses, but something weird about this water block, and the system is not posting. Okay. I'm gonna check all my power cables and make sure they're fully seated. CPU power. CPU power. VGA. Board power. Diagnostic code again. These diagnostic codes are usually traditionally very unhelpful. Let's see. 91, D2, 14, still cycling 15, C5. So I don't see anything called C5 in the manual. All right, still, we could have a power supply issue, or we could also have a bad stick of RAM. I just want to verify with regards to the RAM. I'm looking to see which memory sockets have to be used if you're only going to use 2 memory chips. It makes no mention, so far as I can tell, of any particular preferences for fewer memory modules. I can't tell. This doesn't seem to identify preferred memory sockets if you're like using 2 memory modules. Maybe it doesn't matter. What am I looking for? C5 is CPU not detected. David Graham says C5 indicates the motherboard is unable to detect the CPU. I suppose I could take the cooler back off of it and reseat it. It could also be that our power supply isn't delivering enough power. I'm going to remove, just for kicks, I'm going to remove all the lower RAMs. Take all the bottom ones out. See if that makes any difference. Still hung up with C5. Back off. Flap all the other memory modules both. C2. Getting further. 15, 00, 68, 14, 15. C0, C2. F6, 22, 08, 13, 27. Hike. Come on, baby. Post for me. 8, C4, 08, 14, 13. Oh, we got a blue light. 27, 97. It's alive. See, when I say those codes, they so often will send you down the wrong direction. Like, you know, somebody reads it's not detecting a CPU and it's wrong. It's just completely wrong. You know what I mean? I know, but these codes always steer me down the wrong path. Please press delete or F2 to enter BIOS. Okay, but I'm going to shut this off because it is getting rapidly hot and I am nervous with these fans not running up here. So maybe we have a bad RAM module, or maybe I didn't seat one fully. But this radiator is awfully warm already. And I am nervous that those fans are not running. I could probably, for the interim, just hook the fans up to the fan block rather than control it through the water block. And the hoses are fairly warm as well. So, okay, let me, let's go back. Full screen on camera 1. All right, I think we can wrap up this video right at about, what, 2 hours? And we can conclude something's going on with the water block. Might need to order a different one, or at least take this one apart and see if the power connection or the fans got disconnected, because it just plugs in onto the circuit board, but it's underneath this cover. So it's very difficult to see. We know our CPU is good. We know our motherboard is good. And we either have a bad RAM module, which is very possible with the video card bouncing around in there, or I didn't seat it all the way. But I mean, I was pretty firm on those, but nonetheless, we don't necessarily have to have 512 gigs of RAM. Regardless, we got a post. That's what I wanted to see. So that's the good news. We're mostly there. There's definitely something wrong with the other board. Definitely say that for a fact. And then I think I can work on this off camera to either try and repair this block or just order another block. I have to look up how much these are. This one might be repairable though, and I do feel fluid moving through it, but without the fans running, you know, maybe that I could bypass the fans, but I don't really want to cut corners on a system of this caliber. And if we can get everything up and running again, then I would consider switching the case out to something that's not twisted. Surprised this board has built-in Wi-Fi on it. Server? It's weird. Wi-Fi 6E. Okay. So before we wrap it up for today, does anybody have any last questions, comments, suggestions? This is the manual for the M.2 HyperCard. Buck says the block lit up the other day when you first got it. Yeah, that's, you know, maybe I'm missing something somewhere, but if so, not seeing it. Everything seems like it's plugged back in. There's 3 cables coming off of the block. What's this? Oh, you know what? I did not hook the USB up off of the block. Wonder if that could be giving us some grief. Let's see if that makes any difference. Okay, so the block does light up now. That's what the USB is doing. And now the fans are turning. So I guess you really got to have that USB cable hooked up, because now the fans are spinning like they're supposed to. Turn that this way. Hopefully without knocking everything off the bench. It's a lot quieter now. Yep. Okay. Very good. Much better. Much better. All right. Well, that was easy. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. So at this point, I got to see why it's not booting. I think I'm going to talk to Patrick, but I think what I want to do, you know, I want to go and make sure we have the latest BIOS. I want to make sure that it's configured to boot from that M2. I don't know that Patrick set that M2 as bootable. I'm assuming he did. But I want to make sure there's nothing on it that he needs, and I'd like to just completely reset it with a clean install of Windows 10 or Windows 11. We probably put Windows 11 on it, I guess. Windows 11 is not doing well in the marketplace. Of all the Windows desktops, Windows 10 makes up 80% of installed base, and Windows 11 only 20%. So it is not being adopted as Microsoft would like it to. You know what? Let's plug in another RAM module. Here. Here. Okay. So there's a second RAM module. Add on. Add on. Put it in a corner. Oops. Okay, we're still getting a post, so next one. These one at a time to identify if we have bad module. If we put them all in and there's a problem, then we're right back at square one, not knowing which one it is. So this is, even though it's a little painstaking, it's actually the most efficient way to determine. Felt funny. I didn't feel like it. Let's see. Got a blue light. And we posted. So far, so good. On to the next one. It's number 4. Blue light. This is 256 gigs of RAM. Still works. Okay. On to the next one. Let's see, it's got to go this way. On. Light. Still turns on. All right. RAM module number 6. Blue light. Okay. Huh. Okay. And module number 7. Blue light. Okay. One left. That's all 8 back in. Takes a long time to count up 512 gigs of RAM, I guess. Blue light. Not letting me in the BIOS, though. Just, I want to go in the BIOS to see if it sees 512 gigs of RAM. Most home computers would boot by now. This thing is still just going through its self-check. And the more RAM you have, the longer the self-check takes. Oh, got something on the screen. What's it say? We detected a new processor. Press Y to reset FTPM. Press N to keep previous FTPM. Well, just press Y. I'm not worried about that. Still cycling through its regular power on self-test here. Blue light. We're in. We are in. Now is the right date. CPU information. AMD Ryzen ThreadRipper Pro 3995, 64 cores. Total memory, 524. Yeah, it's seeing all of our memory correctly. Looking to see if there was any temperature reports here. BIOS version 1106, we can look and see if we got a new one. That was from February. It's all voltage stuff. Yeah, that is a monster. Holy cow. Don't see any temperature reporting in here, though. Okay. So I get to the post screen one more time. You know what? While it's doing that, right now you're seeing no signal because we've gone full screen on the HDMI input to the capture card coming out of this ThreadRipper. So as it's going through its power on self-test here, there's no video output. There it goes blue, so we should get video output here any second. There it is. It looks like it's now booting to the M2 drive, that Samsung 980. Of course, we don't have a video driver loaded for this card, so see what it does here. Not sure what that's all about. It definitely feels nice and cool. Okay, so now that we've gotten this far, be curious if the graphics card will work. So I'm going to shut the power supply off. I'm not sure what the system's doing, if it's trying to load a driver or it's locked up. That's weird. It just went blank like that. And we're going to take our test video card out. And well, this completely changed my plans. I thought I was going to do all this offline, but since we're making progress rapidly, I don't want to stop because I got Mojo going now. Let's see if this graphics card will work, the RTX 3090. What slot you put it in? I think I would put it in slot 3 personally, because that's a 16 slot. Ooh, that's heavy. And he was powering it before with this power supply and this adapter. So we know it did work before it was shipped. And I need some VGA power here. There's one. Other one, oh, this one. He might have been coming off just one cable. Can't remember how I took it apart. Shouldn't matter. And it's there, it's there. HDMI cable here. Now, last time we did this, we didn't even get any fan rotation, so. Yeah, and we're still not getting fan rotation. Which I suspect means the graphics card was probably damaged. That was the thing that was bouncing around inside of here. I mean, the motherboard's still going through its post cycle here. blue. Get a good video. Going back through some cycling. F3, F2, F1, F0, just counting down. C, E, B, E, A, E9. I think the card died. That's what I think happened. That's what it looks like to me. And not surprising, given the condition this machine was in. And that's an expensive card, but you know what? It's an even more expensive motherboard and CPU. So the important things are working. All right, let me just take a quick look at the chat and we will wrap up today's video. You know what? Let me just try one more thing. One more time. I don't think it's going to work. Oh, wait. Try, just for grins and giggles, running it off the same power connector. Oh, I can't. It's only a 6-pin coming off of there. Well, that answers that question. It's a 4-pin. I mean, it's an 8-pin and a 6-pin, so he could not have had it hooked up that way. This must have been the way it was. Seated. Okay, well, gonna need a new graphics card. Rest in peace, 3090. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Bull142 says use the 970. Yeah, we absolutely could. We already had another card in there, so we know the system boots. But I'm not too worried about that right now. I just wanted to verify that the card was broken or not broken, because until we had a machine that was booting, we couldn't really tell if the card was damaged or not. So now we can verify there's definitely damage to the card. So we had damage to the motherboard caused by the card and damage to the card. But it looks like that's all. I don't see any other damage. There's some physical damage to the power supply, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the power supply at all. And nothing hammering the power supply back into shape wouldn't fix. And let's see, where's that? Still wanting to boot. That is an expensive computer. Yes, it is, Douglas. That's $15,000 to $20,000 for this machine when it was all decked out and had all the cards and memory and drives in it. As stripped out without those add-on cards, we're probably closer to, well, without the graphics card, maybe around 12,000. Hard to say exactly. But certainly just the processor and the motherboard put us at 6,000. Calculating out the DDR4 ECC RDIMM RAM, having a 0.5 terabyte of that is going to be costly. And then the Samsung 980 is going to pale in comparison to the price of everything else. So yeah, it's not going to boot with that card. Okay, well now we know. It's all good. Will UPS be liable at all? No, UPS will say it wasn't packed properly. That's par for the course. I don't know if have you ever successfully filed an insurance claim with any carrier, FedEx, UPS, United States Postal Service? It's everything they can do to deny your claim. And even if your claim were to get approved, it'll take 3 months before you see anything. So, you know, in business, generally, it's going to cost us more money and lost productivity and lost downtime to pursue getting an insurance claim than to just pay for it and get back up and running and back to business so we can start earning money again. You know, any business that would have a machine like this is likely losing a lot of money every minute it's down. Now, in Patrick's case, I don't know how this machine was being utilized, but I know he's got many others. And I just really wanted the challenge to get my hands into something at this level because it's been a while. And yeah, I'm happy that things are up and running. I will put the little CPU cover on the other board, but I think that other board's pretty much done. It's possible it wasn't booting because of the, it looked like some of the pins on the bottom were touching each other, and that could have been preventing the boot. But I suspect the fact that it's missing the capacitor, even though that's strictly for the audio, these things can be sort of like dominoes. And I wouldn't want to use it. Even if it did boot, I wouldn't trust it. This, having a new board and a new warranty on the board, and carrying over that very pricey CPU, knowing our cooler is still 100% okay, the graphics card, not that big of a deal in the scope of things when you look at the overall expense of the system. Heck, even that power supply is probably a $200 power supply. So there's nothing cheap on the system. And then I'll consider moving that maybe into the Be Quiet Shadow Base 800DX if it'll fit, which I think it will, and get rid of this case, which is a little wobbly. But I need to talk to Patrick and we'll see where we're going to go from here. Tomorrow, I will be live with a new build. We're building for a gentleman named John. John called and wants to order a machine from me, and he ordered the parts, had the parts shipped to me. We discussed in a very long conversation what were the right parts, and then I sent him Amazon links, said, you know, these are the parts we discussed, so there's no mistakes. We just recently got the last part, so we'll do the motherboard prep tomorrow. I'll look for a BIOS update for this just to see if there's a new one. And I hope you'll join me tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time, as we do every single Friday. And this will set aside, and we'll just do a regular desktop build. This is a, what are we doing? A 13500, I think, on a Z790 ASRock Steel Legend board, I think is what it is. So all those video notes and everything in the video description are already posted. You'll see that that video is already scheduled for tomorrow. Be sure and check out our video description in today's video. I want to shout out a thank you again over to Patrick at ServeTheHome for giving us this opportunity to work on this bad boy. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and joining us on this little journey of discovery and experimentation. A shout out and thanks to our good friends over at $300 Data Recovery for partnering up with us throughout the month of September and October. And to remind you, data recovery is very expensive and very time consuming. Usually nothing less than $1,000. So I make a big deal about $300 data recovery because that's a lot less than $1,000. That's entry level. That's where it starts. It goes up from there. I hope you never need data recovery, but if you do, I hope you won't spend too much and wait too long. And consider using $300 data recovery. They're the highest rated data recovery service on the planet on Yelp. They've done over 27,000 data recoveries since they opened up in business in 2007, when for some reason he named the business $300 data recovery. I don't know if he really thought that through, because going on 15, 16 years later now, it's still $300 data recovery. So ideally you're making backups and you'll never need data recovery. But if you know anybody who didn't make their backups and is suffering a failed mechanical or solid state drive, even a flash drive, any storage drive at all, reach out to the folks at $300 data recovery, 300ddr.com. You can get a free estimate, and you can decide. And then call around, by the way, just so if you don't believe me, and you shouldn't believe anybody unless you really know them really well. Call around and get some prices to really appreciate how much significant difference there is in cost from data recovery services, comparing $300 data recovery to literally anyone else. And my thanks to Brian Cometa, the owner over there, for partnering up with us. Honored to be associated with them. They're fantastic. And again, I hope you never need data recovery. And that's going to wrap it up for me. Thanks to Camera Girl for getting the close-up shots today and for the thumbnail in today's video. Thank you, Camera Girl. Thanks to everybody who's contributed during today's live stream. I will take a quick look here. I haven't looked at my phone once. And, oh, Barry Klein sent an Amazon gift card. He said, here's $25 Amazon gift card so you can purchase a truss to help with the hernia. You're no doubt lifting those motherboards in that case. As always, I'm enjoying the show. Thank you, Barry. And Richard Palmentier found out he had a bad DisplayPort cable, and he did not have a problem with his video card after all. See that? And thanks again to our good friend Kelly Stewart. And another shout out and cheers to our friend Buster, Peter Laycock, Frankie B, John Jack Wilson, Oystein, watching us in Sweden. Just a shout out to all the friends, all my friends in blue and green in the chat. I'll see y'all tomorrow, 1 o'clock p.m. live. Until next time, bye for now.